Hello, Shining Stars. Your learning buddy of Prajakta is back with a new chapter for you of Class 8 English. And children, today we'll do chapter number 14. That is Christmas Eve. Let's see what's there in the chapter. Let's warm up first. This is the story about the life of rich and poor and how the writer is unhappy due to the difference of their living style. ये कहानी एक अमीर और एक गरीब की है कि और जो राइटर है इस जिसने लिखा है इसको वो क्यों नाखुश है इस डिफरेंस को लेकर। जो लिविंग स्टाइल में डिफरेंस है, एक अमीर कैसे रहता है, एक गरीब कैसे अपनी लाइफ को चलाता है, दिस डिफरेंस मेक्स हिम अनहैप्पी। इट वाज क्रिसमस ईव। ऑल द पैराफिन इन द लिटिल लैम्प आर बर्न्ड आउट, बट Fyodor Nilov still sat at work. वो क्रिसमस ईव का दिन था और जो लैम्प जल रहा था उसमें जितना पैराफिन था, जो वैक्स था, वो भी बर्न हो गया था, लेकिन जो Fyodor Nilov था वो अभी भी काम कर रहा था। He would long ago have flung aside his work and gone out into the street, but a customer from Kolokolny Lane, who had a fortnight before ordered some boots, had on the previous day abused him roundly and had ordered him to finish the boots at once before the morning service. वो बहुत पहले ही चला गया होता because it was a Christmas Eve, लेकिन उसका एक कस्टमर उसने उसको एक दिन पहले बहुत गलत तरीके से बात की थी और उसको ऑर्डर किया था कि उसके जो बूट्स हैं वो मॉर्निंग तक उससे पहले फिनिश हो जाने चाहिए, बन जाने चाहिए। It's convict's life, Fyodor grumbled as he worked. Some people have been asleep long ago. Others are enjoying themselves, while you sit here and sue for the devil knows whom. Now, Fyodor काम करते करते ग्रम्बल कर रहा था, बात कर रहा था, अपने आप से ही बोल रहा था कि ये कैसी लाइफ है कि कुछ लोग तो सो गए हैं, कुछ लोग मजे कर रहे हैं, एंजॉय कर रहे हैं और मैं यहाँ बैठा हुआ सिल रहा हूँ, किसके बूट्स पता नहीं। To save himself from accidentally falling asleep, he kept taking a bottle from under the table and drinking out of it. And after every pull at it, he twisted his head and said aloud. अब गलती से वो सो न जाए तो उसके लिए उसने क्या किया, एक बॉटल रखी हुई थी टेबल के नीचे, उसको उसने बाहर निकाला और उसमें से जो भी था उसमें वो ड्रिंक करने लगा जिससे कि वो सो ना जाए। What is the reason? Kindly tell me that customers enjoy themselves while I am forced to sit and work for them because they have money and I am a beggar. अब वो सोचने लगा कि क्या कारण है कि जो कस्टमर्स हैं वो तो मजे कर रहे हैं और मैं यहाँ बैठा हुआ काम कर रहा हूँ। वो अमीर हैं, उनके पास पैसा है और मैं गरीब हूँ। इसलिए he hated all his customers, especially the one who lived in Kolokolny Lane. वो अपने सारे कस्टमर्स को हेट करता था क्योंकि उसको काम करना पड़ता था उन लोगों के लिए, और सबसे ज्यादा हेट वो एक कस्टमर को करता था जो कि Kolokolny Lane में। He was a gentleman of gloomy appearance with long hair, a yellow face, blue spectacles and a husky voice. ये किसके बारे में है कि Kolokolny Lane में जो उसका कस्टमर था उसका अपीयरेंस ऐसा था, वो देखने में। He had a German name which one could not pronounce. उसका एक जर्मन नाम था जो कि कोई प्रोनाउंस नहीं करता। It was impossible to tell what his calling was and what he did. When a fortnight before Fyodor had gone to take his measure, he, the customer, was sitting on the floor pounding something in a mortar. एक दिन पहले वो उसका नाप लेने गया। Before Fyodor had time to say good morning, the contents of the mortar suddenly flared up and burned with a bright red flame. There was a stink of sulfur and burnt feathers, and the room was filled with a thick pink smoke. So Fyodor sneezed 5 times and as he returned home afterwards, he thought, anyone who feared God would not have anything to do with things like that. अब जब एक वो उसका नाप लेने गया था उस कस्टमर का जो कि कॉलोनी लेन में रहता था, तो वहां जब वो पहुंचा तो ही वॉज डूइंग समथिंग, उससे पहले कि वो उससे विश कर पाता तो एक मोटर चल रहा था और अचानक से कुछ बर्न हुआ, एक रेड फ्लेम सा निकला एंड उसमें सल्फर और फेदर्स के बर्न होने की स्मेल आ रही. When there was nothing left in the bottle, Theodore put the boots on the table and sank into thought. अब जब वो बॉटल खाली हो गया तो Theodore ने जो बूट्स थे उसके उस कस्टमर के उसको टेबल पे रखा और सोचने लगा. He leaned his heavy head on his furs and began thinking of his poverty, of his hard life with no glimmer of light in it. और वो अपनी गरीबी के बारे में सोचने लगा. Then he thought of the rich or their big houses and their carriages of their 100 ruble notes. How nice it would be if the houses of these rich men were smashed, if their horses died, if their fur coats and sable caps got shabby. अब वो ये सोचने लगा कि जो रिच लोग हैं जिनके बड़े बड़े घर हैं, उनके फर वाले कोट्स हैं, उनके इतने सारे हॉर्सेस हैं, कैरियजेस हैं, ये सब कुछ बर्बाद हो जाए, सब कुछ खत्म हो जाए. How splendid it would be if the rich, little by little, changed into beggars, having nothing, and he, a poor shoemaker, were to become rich and were to lord it over some other poor shoemaker on Christmas Eve. अब वो ये सोचने लगा कि जो रिच है ये तो पुअर हो जाए और मैं जो एक पुअर शूमेकर हूँ मैं रिच बन जाऊँ. Dreaming like this, Theodore suddenly thought of his work and opened his eyes. अब वो उस ड्रीम में जाते जाते अचानक से उसको याद आया अपने काम का और उसने अपनी आंखें खोली. Years ago, he thought, looking at the boots, the job has been finished ever so long ago, and I go on sitting here. I must take the boots to the gentleman. अब उसने सोचा कि मेरा काम तो फिनिश हो गया और मैं यहाँ क्यों बैठा हूँ, अब मुझे इन बूट्स को उस जेंटलमैन को दे के आना चाहिए. He wrapped up the work in a red handkerchief, put on his things, and went out into the street. A fine hard snow was falling, pricking the face as though with needles. Snowfall ho rahi thi. It was cold, slippery, dark. The gas lamps burned dimly, and for some reason there was a smell of paraffin in the street. So Theodore coughed and cleared his throat. क्योंकि बहुत ठंड थी बाहर, it was slippery, dark था, और Theodore cough करने लगा and cleared his throat. Rich men were driving to and fro on the road, and every rich man had a ham and a bottle of vodka in his hands. Rich young ladies peeped at Theodore out of the carriages and sledges, put out their tongues and shouted laughing, beggar, beggar. और जो rich people थे, they were going in their carriages to and fro, and जो rich ladies थी वो उसको देख के चिढ़ा रही थी, beggar, beggar. This was insulting, but Theodore held his tongue and only spat in disgust. But when Kuzma Lebedev in the Warsaw, a master boot maker, met him and said, I have married a rich woman and I have men working under me, while you are a beggar and have nothing to eat. Theodore could not refrain from running after him. He pursued him till he found himself in Colcolny Lane. और वो ऐसे ये सब देखता हुआ कहाँ पहुँच गया? Colcolny Lane. His customer lived in the 4th house from the corner, जहाँ उसको वो boots देने. When Theodore went into him, he was sitting on the floor pounding something in a mortar. Again, when he went there, उस customer के पास गया, वो जमीन पे बैठा हुआ था and he was pounding something in a mortar, just as he had been the fortnight before. जैसा कि वो उससे पहले मिला था, वैसा ही उसने अब भी किया. Your Honor, I have brought your boots, said Theodore sullenly. The customer got up and began trying on the boots in silence. अब वो customer उठा और अपने boots को try करने लगा, पहन के देखने. Desiring to help him, Fedor went down on one knee and pulled off his old boot, but at once jumped up and staggered towards the door in horror. The customer had not a foot, but a hoof like a horse. अब जब वो उसकी हेल्प करने के लिए नीचे बैठा फिडोर कि उसका जो पुराना बूट है वो खोल के नया वाला बूट पहनाने के लिए, अचानक से वो डर के मारे उठ गया एंड ही जस्ट कहाँ भागा? डोर की तरफ. क्यों भागा वो? बिकॉज जब उसने वो बूट उतारा तो उसने देखा कि उसके पैर नहीं थे, उस कस्टमर के पैर नहीं थे, उसके हूव्स थे, जैसे हॉर्स के होते हैं ना हूव्स, वैसे थे उसके. Thought Fedor, here's a go. The first thing should have been to cross himself, then to leave everything and run downstairs. But he immediately reflected that he was meeting a devil for the first and probably the last time, and not to take advantage of his services would be foolish. अब वो डर के मारे उसे भाग जाना चाहिए था, लेकिन उसने अपने आप को कंट्रोल. He controlled himself and determined to try his luck. Clasping his hands behind him to avoid making the sign of the cross, the coughed respectfully and began. अब वो भागा नहीं, वो अपने आप को उसने कंट्रोल. They say that there is nothing on the earth more evil and impure than the devil. But I am of the opinion, Your Honor, that the devil is highly educated. He has, excuse me saying it, hoofs and a tail behind, but he has more brains than many a student. अब वो उसकी तारीफ करने लगा फिडोर कि दिस डेविल, लोग कहते हैं कि डेविल, ये जो evil and impure than a devil, इससे ज़्यादा impure कुछ नहीं होता कि अगर कोई डेविल ऐसा है जिसके की hooves हैं और tail हैं, but you are very educated. आप बहुत educated हैं. I like you for what you say, said the devil flatly. Thank you, shoemaker. What do you want? अब उसने बोला कि जो तुमने तारीफ की मेरी, मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगा. अब तुम बताओ तुम्हें क्या चाहिए. And without loss of time, the shoemaker began complaining of his lot. He began by saying that from his childhood he had envied the rich. उसने बोला कि मैं अपने बचपन से, अब वो shoemaker शुरू हो गया अपनी बात बताना कि मैं बचपन से इन जो अमीर लोग हैं इनसे जलन होती है मुझे. I'm jealous of them. He had always resented it that all people did not live alike in big houses and drive with good horses. Why, he asked, was he poor? He was worse than Kuzma Lebiodsky from Warsaw, who had his own house and whose wife wore a hat. वो जो shoemaker था जिसने rich woman को marry किया. He had the same sort of nose, the same hands, same feet, head and back as the rich. And so why was he forced to work when others were enjoying themselves? अब ये सब questions वो उस कस्टमर से अपने करना शुरू किया उसने कि क्यों मैं इतना पुअर हूँ, क्यों मेरे भी तो वैसे ही हाथ है, पैर हैं, ईयर्स हैं, एवरीथिंग इज लाइक दैट, बट व्हाई आई एम सो पुअर, व्हाई आई एम अ बेगर. व्हाट डू यू वांट देन? हिज कस्टमर इंटरप्टेड. आई बेग यू, योर ऑनर, टू बी ग्रेशियसली प्लीज टू मेक मी अ रिच मैन. अब उस शूमेकर ने कहा कि योर ऑनर, मैं चाहता हूँ कि मैं भी एक अमीर आदमी बन जाऊँ. सर्टेनली, only for that you must give me your soul. Before the cocks crow, go and sign on this paper. Here, you give me up your soul. अब उसने कहा ठीक है, तुम रिच बन जाओगे, लेकिन उससे पहले क्या करना है तुम्हें? Before the cocks crow, मुर्गा बोलने से पहले आपको मुझे अपना सोल देना. ये पेपर साइन करो and you say that you give me your soul. Your Honor, said Fedor politely, when you ordered a pair of boots from me, I did not ask for the money in advance. One has first to carry out the order and then ask for payment. Oh, very well, the customer assented. A bright flame suddenly flared up in the mortar. A pink, thick smoke came puffing out, and there was a smell of burnt feathers and sulfur. वैसे ही smell फिर से. When the smoke had subsided, Fedor rubbed his eyes and saw that he was no longer Fedor, no longer a shoemaker, but quite a different man, wearing a waistcoat and a watch chain in a new pair of trousers, and that he was sitting in an armchair at a big table. Two footmen were handing him dishes, bowling low and saying, "Kindly eat, Your Honor, and may it do you good." अब जैसे ही वो स्मोक आया, वो ब्राइट फ्लेम आई और वो जो पिंक स्मोक आया, उसमें बर्न फेदर्स और सल्फर की स्मेल आई. जब वो सबसाइड हो गया, उसके बाद फिडोर ने देखा कि वो फिडोर अब वो बेगर नहीं था, एक वो रिच मैन बन चुका था और उसके दो लोग उसको खाना परोस रहे थे. The footman handed him a big piece of roast mutton and a dish of cucumbers from the start and went on to serve him a large variety of foods that he had not ever imagined. और वो जो दो फुटमैन थे वो उसको इतने अच्छे अच्छे डिशेस सर्व कर रहे थे जिसकी कभी उसने सोचा भी नहीं था उसके बारे में. He went on eating and was delighted. How is it the gentry don't burst with such meals? He thought. After dinner, the devil appeared in blue spectacles and asked with a low bow, "Are you satisfied with your dinner, Fedor?" अब जब उसने डिनर फिनिश कर लिया तो वो डेविल फिर से आया और उसने कहा कि अब तुम satisfied हो? But Fedor could not answer one word. He was so stuffed after his dinner. To distract his attention, he took a fat pocketbook out of his pocket and began counting his money. There was a great deal of money, but Fedor wanted more still. इतना पैसा होने के बाद भी फिर फिडोर को और चाहिए था. The devil in the blue spectacles brought another notebook, fatter still. But he wanted even more, and the more counted, the more disconnected he became. Discontent. "We have a great deal of money," he said to his wife. "We must look out or thieves will be breaking in. You had better go and look with a candle," he said his wife. He did not sleep all night and kept getting up to see if his box was all right. In the morning, he had to go to church. There, the same honor is done to the rich and the poor alike. When Fedor was poor, he used to pray in church like this: "God, forgive me a dinner." He said the same thing now, though he had become rich. वो अमीर हो गया था, वो नेक्स्ट डे चर्च में गया. चर्च में भी रिच और पुअर का, जब वो पुअर था तो यही बोलता था, "God forgive me a dinner." और उसने अब भी वही बोला. What difference was here? And after death, Fedor would not be buried in gold, not in diamonds, but in the black earth as the poorest beggar. क्योंकि डेथ के बाद सब एक ही तरह से जाते हैं. Fedor would burn in the same fire as cobblers. Fedor resented all this, and too he felt weighed down all over by his dinner. And instead of prayer, he had all sorts of thoughts in his head. About his box of money, about thieves, about his battered, ruined soul. He came out of church in a bad temper. To drive away his unpleasant thoughts, he had often done before. He struck up a song at the top of his voice. But as soon as he began, a policeman ran up and said, with his fingers to the peak of his cap, "Your Honor, gentlefolk must not sing in the street. You are not a shoemaker." अब जैसे ही जब वो शूमेकर था तब वो गाते गाते जाता था स्ट्रीट से, वैसे ही वो जाने लगा तो एक पुलिसमैन ने आके उसको रोका कि अब आप शूमेकर नहीं हो, आप गाना नहीं गाना. Fedor leaned his back against a fence and fell to thinking. What could he do amuse himself? "Your Honor," a porter shouted to him, "don't lean against the fence. You will spoil your fur coat." जैसे ही वो फेंस को लीन करके खड़ा हुआ फेंस के साथ में, तो एक पोर्टर ने आके कहा कि ऐसे मत खड़े होइए, आपका फर कोट खराब हो जाएगा. Fedor went into a shop and bought himself the very best Francia then went out into the street playing it. Everybody pointed at him and laughed. And a gentleman too. Two cabmen jeered at him like some cobbler. Is it the proper thing for gentlefolk to be disorderly in the street? A policeman said to him. You had better go into a tavern. Because now he had become rich. अब वो rich हो गया था तो वो कॉबलर्स की तरह बिहेव नहीं कर पा रहा। सब कोई भी आके उसको रोक देता था कि आप ऐसा नहीं कर सकते, आप कॉबलर नहीं है, आप गाना नहीं गा सकते स्ट्रीट में, आपका फर कोट खराब हो जाएगा। ओके? Your Honor, give us a trifle. For Christ's sake, the beggars wailed, surrounding Fedor on all sides. अब सारे जो बेगर्स थे स्ट्रीट से जब वो जा रहा था तो सारे जितने बेगर्स थे वो सब आके उन्होंने घेर लिया उसको और उससे मांगने लगे. They wanted something from him because he was a rich man. In earlier days when he was a shoemaker, the beggars took no notice of him. Now they wouldn't let him pass. अब पहले जब वो गरीब था, जब वो बेगर था तो उस टाइम पे कोई भी उसको नोटिस नहीं करता था और अब कोई भी बेगर उसको जाने नहीं दे रहा था. And at home he had no sooner sat down to tea than the evil spirit in the blue spectacles appeared and said, Come Fyodor, I have performed my part of the bargain. Now sign your paper and come along with me. क्योंकि उसने क्या मांगा था? उसने सोल मांगी थी, फियोडोर का की आत्मा मांगी थी. कि तो पहले फियोडोर ने क्या बोला था कि पहले ये सब मनी और ये सब आना चाहिए मेरे पास, देन ओनली आई विल साइन द पेपर. अब जब ये सब आ गया और जब वो घर पहुंचा तो घर पहुंच के जैसे ही उसने चाय पीने के लिए बैठा तो वो इविल जो था वो इविल इट केम बैक, जिसने ब्लू चश्मा लगाया हुआ था, एंड उसने कहा कि फियोडोर मैंने अपना पार्ट दे दिया तुम्हें, कर दिया, अब तुम उन पेपर्स पे साइन करो, चलो मेरे साथ. एंड ही ड्रैग्ड फियोडोर टू हेल, straight to the furnace, and devils flew up from all directions and shouted, Food, blockhead ass! Now, फियोडोर को उस इविल ने अपने साथ वो खींच के ले गया, कहाँ? हेल. ओके? एंड वहाँ एक फर्नेस था और चारों तरफ से डेविल्स उड़ के आ रहे थे और सब चिल्ला रहे थे, हाँ फूड, बिकॉज दे थॉट दैट द फूड हैज कम, द ब्लॉकहेड एस. There was a fearful smell of paraffin in hell, enough to suffocate one. And suddenly it all vanished. और अचानक से ये सब गायब हो गया. Fyodor opened his eyes and saw his table, the boots and the tin lamp. उसने अपनी आंखें खोली, वो वहीं था, उसके सामने वो बूट्स पड़े हुए थे, उसका टिन लैम्प रखा था, वो टेबल था. The lamp glass was black, and from the faint light of the wick came clouds of stinking smoke as from a chimney. Near the table stood the customer in the blue spectacles, shouting angrily, Fool, blockhead ass, I'll give you a lesson, you scoundrel. You took the order a fortnight ago and the boots aren't yet ready yet. Do you suppose I want to come around here half a dozen times a day for my boots? You wretch, you brute. और जैसे उसने आंखें खोली और उसने देखा वो जो कस्टमर था ब्लू स्पेक्टेकल्स में, वो खड़ा हुआ था उसके सामने और वो उसके ऊपर चिल्ला रहा था कि तुमने अभी तक मेरा ऑर्डर रेडी नहीं किया, मेरे बूट्स रेडी नहीं किए. Fyodor shook his head and set to work on the boots. The customer went on swearing and threatening him for a long time. At last, when he subsided, Fyodor asked suddenly. Now, वो चिल्लाता रहा, वो कस्टमर बहुत देर तक चिल्लाता रहा फियोडोर के ऊपर. एंड जब वो शांत हो गया वो कस्टमर, तब उसने उससे पूछा, किससे? कस्टमर से. एंड व्हाट इज योर ऑक्यूपेशन सर? कि सर आप क्या करते हैं? I make Bengal lights and fireworks. I am a pyrotechnician. Fyodor gave the customer the boots, took the money for them, and went to church. Carriages and sledges with bearskin rugs were dashing to and fro in the street. Merchants, ladies, officers were walking along the pavement together with the humbler folk. एंड उससे बूट्स देने के बाद, कस्टमर को जब उसने बूट्स दे दिए, उससे पैसा लेने के बाद फिर वो स्ट्रीट से जाने लगा. But Fyodor did not envy them nor repine at his lot. लेकिन अब जो फियोडोर था वो उनसे जलन नहीं हो रही थी, उन रिच पीपल को देख के उसको कोई जलन नहीं हो रही थी. इट सीम्ड टू हिज नाउ दैट द रिच एंड पुअर वर इक्वली बैडली ऑफ. Some were able to drive in carriage and others to sing songs at the top of their voice and to play the contracia, but one and the same thing, the same grave was awaiting all alike, and there was nothing in life for which one could give the devil even a tiny scrap of one's soul. अब उसको रियलाइज हो गया था इस बात का कि जो रिच और पुअर हैं दे आर इक्वली द सेम, ये दोनों सेम ही हैं, क्योंकि अल्टीमेटली जब डेथ के बाद दोनों को एक ही ग्रेव में जाना है. हाँ, कोई किसी के पास गाड़ी है, किसी के पास अच्छा हाउस है रहने के लिए, किसी के पास नहीं है, लेकिन ऐसा कोई नहीं कर सकता कि अपने सोल का एक टाइनी स्क्रैप भी किसी डेविल को दे दे और उसके बदले में पैसा ले. बिकॉज ही वॉज ड्रीमिंग, ही वेंट इन टू हिज थाट्स. वो ये सब क्या था, वो उसका ड्रीम था, क्योंकि वो काम करते करते वो सोचने बैठ गया था और वो ड्रीम में चला गया था. तो दिस वॉज हिज ड्रीम, द शूमेकर्स ड्रीम. ओके, सो नाउ सम कॉम्प्रिहेंशन हियर. Darken the correct option in OMR sheet. Fyodor hated all his dash, especially the one who lived in Kolkolny Lake. There's children, customers, students, shopkeeper. Fyodor hated all his customers. A fine hard snow was falling, pricking the face as though with thorns, needles, pins, stones like needles. Dash controlled himself and determined by try this luck. Maskman, Lebyotkin, Fyodor, this is Fyodor. Devil. Let's write down the right spelling here, Fyodor, Fyodor. So who controlled himself? Fyodor controlled himself. And without loss of time, the Dash began complaining of his lot: shoemaker, potter, kite maker, milkman. Shoemaker started complaining. Now, fill in the blanks. Christmas, horse, poor, gloomy, pyrotechnician. Fyodor still worked on the Dash Eve. क्या eve था वो? Christmas Eve. It was a Christmas Eve. His customer had a Dash appearance and a husky voice. Had a gloomy appearance. Gloomy, gloomy appearance. His customer was in fact a pyrotechnician. He was a pyrotechnician. Fine? Fyodor dreamt that the feet of his customer were like a horse. They were like a horse. The Dash could sing at the top of their could sing. Sorry, this is sing, S-I-N-G. The Dash could sing at the top of their voice in the street. The poor could sing at the top of their voice. Now say if the given statements are true, T, or false, F. Fyodor was happy to work on the Christmas Eve. Was he happy? No. False. He was not happy. Fyodor disliked his customer who lived in Kolkolny Lane. Yes, he disliked. True. Fyodor hated the rich people walking and riding in the street. Yes, this is also true. Fyodor dreamed a devil in the customer. Yes, true. The customer was in fact a devil. No, the customer was not a devil. False. He was a pyrotechnician. Okay? Now, answer the following questions. Why did Fyodor sit at work on the Christmas Eve? Fyodor had to work on the Christmas Eve because a customer living in Kolkolny Lane had ordered for a pair of boots to be ready till morning. What did Fedor grumble while working? Fedor grumbled, saying this, that why I am poor and why all the rich people, they are enjoying themselves and I am working. The rich people are enjoying, they are living in their houses, they are enjoying outside, and I am still working. What did Fedor think his customer was? Fedor thought that his customer was a devil. What did Fedor bargain with the devil in his dream? Fedor bargained for money and making him a rich man, so that he becomes a rich man in place of his soul. He would give his soul to the devil and the devil would give him the money. Why could Fedor not sleep in his dream? Fedor could not sleep in his dream because when in his dream he became a rich man, he could not sing a song while going in the street. He could not lean on the fence because his fur coat would get destroyed. He could not do anything because the rich people were supposed to be living in a very decent way, and they could not do anything which the poor people used to do. Now children, the next thing is the grammar. Clauses. What are clauses? If a sentence has only one subject and verb, it is said to consist of a single clause called the main or the principal clause. अगर एक सेंटेंस में एक ही सब्जेक्ट है और एक ही वर्ब है, ओके, तो उसे क्या कहा जाता है? उसमें सिंगल क्लॉज, उसको कहा जाता है सिंगल क्लॉज या मेन या प्रिंसिपल क्लॉज. मेन क्लॉज और प्रिंसिपल क्लॉज. अ मेन क्लॉज इज अ क्लॉज which can stand alone to form a complete sentence, और वो एक complete sentence form कर सकता है केवल एक ही subject और एक ही verb से. Each of the following sentences has only one clause in the following examples. The verbs are underlined. देखिए, it is hot today. It is hot today. इसमें clause एक ही है, single clause है. is verb. Okay? Verb क्या है? is. The flowers are blooming. So blooming is a verb and it has only one clause. If a sentence contains more than one verb and each verb has its own subject, अगर किसी sentence में एक से ज़्यादा verb है और हर एक verb का अपना एक subject है, the sentence is said to consist of more than one clause. The following sentences have two clauses. अब जो sentence हम पढ़ेंगे इसमें two clauses हैं. The verbs are underlined. They are highlighted here, the verbs. He said that he was tired. See, there are two clauses here. He said, उसने अब two verbs हैं, said and was. He said that he was tired. Two clauses. The door opened and my father entered the room. Opened and entered. They are the verbs. Okay? In the first example, he said is the first clause and that he was tired is the second clause. Okay, अभी आपको समझाया मैंने ये. Now let's move further. Coordinate clauses. What are these? When two clauses are joined by a word such as and or but, the two clauses are called coordinate clauses, and the word which joins them is called coordinate conjunction. अब देखिए, जब दो क्लॉज होते हैं सेंटेंस में और उनको एक वर्ड से ज्वाइन किया जाता है एंड या बट से, तो जो क्लॉजेस हैं उनको तो कहा जाता है कोऑर्डिनेट क्लॉजेस, और जो वर्ड है जिससे कि उन दो क्लॉजेस को ज्वाइन किया जाता है उसे कहते हैं कोऑर्डिनेट कंजंक्शन. ओके, इन द फॉलोइंग एग्जांपल्स द वर्ब्स आर हाइलाइटेड हियर. एग्जांपल, इट इज हॉट but the flowers are blooming. अब देखिए, it is hot एक clause, but the flowers are blooming. but से इसको हमने join किया है, तो but हमारा क्या हो गया? but is a coordinate conjunction. ये जो but है ये coordinate conjunction हो गया. और coordinate clauses कौन से हैं? It is hot, flowers are blooming. Fine? Understood? The flowers are blooming and the birds are chirping. अब यहाँ कोऑर्डिनेट कंजंक्शन हो गया and. and coordinate clauses, the flowers are blooming, the birds are chirping. Fine? So it's mentioned here. यही चीज जो अभी आपको मैंने समझाई. Just read this. Subordinate clauses. अब subordinate clauses क्या होते हैं? Coordinate clauses are the main clauses. Fine? A main clause is grammatically independent in that it may stand alone to form a complete sentence. In contrast, a clause which describes some part of the main clause. कोई भी क्लॉज जो कि थोड़ा सा पार्ट मेन क्लॉज का कुछ पार्ट डिस्क्राइब कर रहा है और विच इज इन सम अदर वे ग्रामेटिकली डिपेंडेंट ऑन द मेन क्लॉज, या वो मेन क्लॉज पे डिपेंडेंट है, उसको कहते हैं सबऑर्डिनेट क्लॉज. अ सबऑर्डिनेट क्लॉज कैन नॉट स्टैंड अलोन टू फॉर्म अ कंप्लीट सेंटेंस. एक सबऑर्डिनेट क्लॉज से कंप्लीट सेंटेंस नहीं बन सकता, उसको मेन क्लॉज पे डिपेंड करना पड़ता है कंप्लीट सेंटेंस बनाने के लिए. एग्जाम्पल्स: The book which I lent you is a science book. The book which I lent you, देखिए subordinate clause है which I lent you is a science book. अगर हम लिखते हैं the book is a science book तो ये complete नहीं हो रहा है sentence. हमें एक subordinate clause चाहिए which I lent you, जो मैंने आपको दी थी वो science book है. He told me what he had felt. Okay? If you are ready, we will leave now. Now children, for each of the following sentences, insert commas where appropriate in order to separate the adjectives from the rest of the sentence. अब adjectives क्या होते हैं? Adjectives are the words which tell us about something, which define something, जो किसी चीज़ के बारे में कुछ बताते हैं. उनको हमें बाकी सेंटेंस से अलग करना है, तो वहाँ हमें एक कॉमा लगाना है. The new appliances which are quite expensive will be on sale next week. अब appliances के बारे में क्या बताया जा रहा है कि वो appliances जो कि expensive हैं, ज़्यादा जो costly हैं, expensive हैं, तो here we'll put a comma, expensive will be on sale next week. The picture which is hanging on the wall was painted by a friend. कौन सा picture जो wall पे hang किया गया है? The picture which is hanging on the wall, comma, was painted by a friend. The people who own the hotel have a great deal of business experience. अब किसके बारे में बताया जा रहा है? डिफाइन किया जा रहा है लोगों के बारे में. The people, कौन से people, कौन से लोग? Who own the hotel, जिनका ये होटल है, comma, have a great deal of business. Fine. His uncle who sings in the choir is a friend of my father. His uncle, uncle के बारे में बताया जा रहा है. कौन से uncle? जो कि choir में गाते हैं. Who sings in the choir, comma, is a friend of my father. The building which is in excellent repair is over 200 years old. Building के बारे में क्या बताया गया है? वो building जो कि excellent repair है, जिसका किया गया है, comma, is over, कैसी है वो? Is over 200 years old. Fine children, so complete these sentences, put a comma in proper place. Now we move further. Speaking skills. Hold a discussion of rich and poor people and their lives in the class. अब क्लास में आप एक डिस्कशन कर सकते हैं अपने क्लासमेट्स के साथ, टीचर्स के साथ, on the life of the rich people and the poor people. Writing skills. Write an informal letter. एक लेटर लिखना है. We write letters to our family and friends for a number of reasons. हम अपने फैमिली, अपने फ्रेंड्स को लेटर लिखते हैं. We may want to tell them about something interesting that happened, to thank them for something or to send an invitation. बहुत सारे reasons हो सकते हैं जिस कारण हम लेटर लिखते हैं. Such letters are much like speaking to a person you are writing to. And so they are called informal letters. और उन लेटर्स को ऐसे लिखा जाता है, ऐसा लगता है जैसे कि हम बात ही कर रहे हैं उनसे, जिनके लिए हम लिख रहे हैं, जिनको हम लेटर लिख रहे हैं. तो इस ऐसे लेटर्स को कहा जाता है informal letters. Write a letter to your friend describing how you celebrated Christmas. अब आपने क्रिसमस सेलिब्रेट किया तो उसके बारे में अपने फ्रेंड को लेटर लिखेंगे. This is the format. यहाँ आपको अपना एड्रेस लिखना है. Write your address here. Then the date, कौन सी डेट पे आप लिख रहे हैं वो लेटर. Greetings. Okay. Hello dear friend. देन पैराग्राफ 1, रेफर टू अ मेमोरी सेलिब्रेशन, कैसा आपका वो सेलिब्रेशन, आपने कैसे किया क्रिसमस का सेलिब्रेशन, वो यहाँ लिखना है. देन पैराग्राफ 2 में क्या लिखना है, द फन यू हैड, आपको कितना मज़ा आया, क्या क्या मज़े किया आपने. देन सम फ्यूचर प्लान्स, आपके आगे के फ्यूचर प्लान्स क्या है, नेक्स्ट क्रिसमस में आप क्या करेंगे. एंड देन साइनिंग ऑफ. ओके, सो राइट अ लेटर इन दिस फॉर्मेट. Values: festivals are the cultural heritage. We should respect and enjoy them with our family and with the people who are less blessed. अभी जो फंक्शन, ये जो फेस्टिवल्स होते हैं, हम जो अलग अलग तरह के फेस्टिवल्स मनाते हैं, ये हमारे कल्चरल हेरिटेज हैं और इन्हें हमें किसके साथ मनाना चाहिए, अपने फैमिली के साथ, अपने फ्रेंड्स के साथ और उन लोगों के साथ मनाना चाहिए जिनको कि ये अपॉर्चुनिटी नहीं मिलती है, जिनके पास ये नहीं है कुछ सेलिब्रेट करने के लिए. वी शुड सेलिब्रेट विद देम, जो दोज हु आर लेस ब्लेस्ड, दोज हु डोंट हैव एनीबडी टू सेलिब्रेट, जिनके पास कुछ नहीं है सेलिब्रेट करने के लिए, ना उनके अपने लोग हैं, ना उनके पास पैसा है सेलिब्रेट करने को, तो हमें ऐसे लोगों के साथ भी ये फेस्टिवल सेलिब्रेट करने चाहिए. ओके चिल्ड्रन, सो this was the end of the lesson. So stay tuned, keep learning, have a great time. We'll meet soon. Bye and have a good time.